Hey there, everybody. Let me try and turn on the light here. There we go. Okay. Welcome back. As you can see, we are in the car again, going to drop off some books that I just finished today. We had a day off from work, and so I spent the entire day reading, which was lovely. And so while we are taking the books back to the library, I thought we would go ahead and chat about them. So the first one we are going to talk about, I did upload a lot of videos today, but the first one that we're going to talk about is The Boyfriend by Frieda McFadden. Now, this is her latest release. So this one, is my understanding, just came out last year, like last summer. And if you know anything about Frieda, everything that she writes is psychological thriller. So we're taking a break from the romance stuff that I've been reviewing lately, and we're going to kind of jump back into another genre that I really discovered or rediscovered that I liked last year. And even in 2023, I kind of started reading these adult thrillers. Now, young adult thrillers and young adult mysteries are like some of my favorite books. Like, that is one of my previously favorite genres. And last year we read the Good Girl's Guide to Murder young adult thriller series. And we've read some other Riley Sager thrillers, and you can find all of those reviews here on my channel. And Frieda McFadden, I just discovered last year, and I read 4 of her books last year. She's written 12 or 13, maybe even more books as of right now. And yeah, so The Boyfriend is her newest release. And I read this book in one day. There were 2 reasons for that. One, it was good. Like, it was just a fast, easy read, kind of, in true thriller spirit, just kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it kind of just leaves you guessing, which is what a thriller should do. You should kind of be, making your predictions and making your guesses about who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, etc. But there was another motivation, and it is due back at the library today, and I have officially checked this book out twice and haven't read it. So we had the day off today, so I was like, I am just reading these Frieda McFadden books. And so I was able to read it in literally 6 hours. I woke up, read about half of it in one sitting, took a small break, and then finished the rest. And it was pretty... So, if you're new here, last year I reviewed the entire Housemaid series. I also reviewed The Teacher, and The Teacher by Frieda McFadden is my favorite by far of all the ones that I've written. And I read that one first, then the entire Housemaid series, pretty much back to back. I read those pretty sequentially, which I would recommend because some of the characters do kind of dibble-dabble in all 3 books. But you don't necessarily have to. I think you could read those. You could take breaks in between them if it's too much. But, so this one, The Boyfriend, is my 5th Frieda book. And so I don't know if it's just that I have gotten used to her writing and that I kind of know what she does with characters. But this one to me was very predictable. I kind of... I was about 100 pages in, and I kind of already, was making connections that it took the main character a little bit longer to figure out. Something interesting about this book is the main character's name is Sydney, which is a name that's been in books a lot recently. That's my sister's name, so that's fun. But I know Colleen Hoover wrote a book, I think it was one of the Maybe Someday books, where the main character's name is also Sydney. So Sydney is kind of in a popular book name right now. But Sydney kind of takes a long time to put the pieces together. Now, whether that was Frieda's writing style and that she wanted it to be really clear from the beginning, like she wanted the connection to be pretty obvious from the beginning or not. I just felt like I knew right away who Tom was and where that story was going. Now, something interesting about this story is that it is told in two different perspectives, which Frieda does a lot in her books. Actually, I think all of her books do multiple perspectives, which I like. But this one was unique in that it was told through different timelines. So Tom gets a perspective, and his is all from the past, starting like when he was back in high school. And then you get Sydney's perspective, which is present day. And then the two stories do intertwine later on in the book. But overall, like, I made predictions that were not correct, which is fine. I like that as a reader, and it's okay to be a little bit disappointed in things, but the connections for me were made really early, and so, which I guess is a good thing. I don't know, like I said, if that's me being familiar with Frieda as a writer or just me reading more of these books. I'm not sure, but regardless, I enjoyed this book, but because I kind of put the pieces together really quickly, with the exception of one, there was one that I did get wrong. I would say I think I was a little bit disappointed overall in this one. I don't know if I just was really, really excited for it because I've been seeing it in all the stores. I've been seeing it, you know, at half-price books, and I've been looking at it and trying to get my hands on reading it for a few months now, that when I finally was like, yes, okay, we're gonna read it, if it just let me down from that perspective, I'm not sure. I did give it 3 stars on Goodreads, which if you've been following me for a while, 3 stars is good. 3 stars is average. It means it was fine. Like, there were things that I liked, there were things that I didn't, but it didn't, like, would I recommend it to other people? Yes. Now, there are some things that I would say are triggers or could be triggering in this one, more so than some of the other ones. Now, Frieda is a psychological thriller writer, so there are several topics in a lot of her books that are questionable, and the motives of her killers are questionable, right? So, but that's part of reading a thriller book, is that there's supposed to be this, like, morally gray, right? These morally gray decisions. But I have 2 major gripes about this book. Number one is the guy, like, our male lead, his name is Tom, and I just feel like, I understand she was trying to paint like this, you know, he's a normal dude that just kind of gets into some stuff, but like, Tom, really? I don't know. When I saw that his name was Tom, I was like, we couldn't do any better than Tom. Like, honestly, I feel like Joe or Joe, like John, would have been better. But anyway, so that was just a little, like, me being picky, and maybe it's just that I've spent so much time in fantasy novels that I'm used to, like, some more unique names. But Tom, I was just like, really? And then the other thing that I would say it's not that I didn't like it, but just something to know about this book is one of the general themes of this book is, like, this obsession with blood, on multiple perspectives. So the main character does have a rare blood disorder that if she gets a small cut or even gets her menstrual cycle, she bleeds more than a normal human being should bleed. It's called von Willebrand disease, and they talk about it in the book, but there is, like, they go into some graphic details about the amount of blood that she spares or sheds, and there are several conversations in the book about, like, the blood in the human body and how much it has and how much you need to live and just different things like that. So if you are squeamish or do not like blood, then just know that going in, that there might be some things in this book that make you a little uncomfortable, because if you are not a blood fan, I can see why it would be a little hard to make it through. I mean, even just looking at the cover, like, it looks like spilled blood on the cover, and it was done intentionally. And what she does well is, like, no matter what her book is called, so this one's called The Boyfriend, she does sneak that into the writing of the book, which I think is just a fun little, so, like, they mention like, oh, I'm the boyfriend, blah, 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 blah. But it's set in like multiple contexts, so you're not really sure what the, like who the antagonist is supposed to be right away. The other thing that I'll say about this book before we kind of wrap up this video is just something to note about Frieda as a writer. She really loves to make women the star of the show. So even if you think that the man is the antagonist or that like he's the bad guy, watch your side female characters, because not only is that true in this book, it's also true in The Teacher and in The Housemaid's Secret. So that's kind of a small little spoiler. We have a female author with female leads primarily in all of her books, but you have to watch those kind of, the characters that you think are like smaller. Those are the characters that you need to kind of, that's like a tip for figuring out the plot twists in her books, is you have to watch those side female characters, because they are the ones who tend to either figure things out or be a little bit more of a big player later on in the book. So without spoiling too much or giving anything away, that is just my little tip. If you are a person who is new to the thriller genre and you're like, oh, I just, you know, I don't like not knowing who the killer is, or I don't like being on the edge of my seat, that's something that as a Frieda reader, I can give you as a little tidbit of how to maybe come to some conclusions on your own a little bit more quickly. But overall, yeah, I gave it a 3-star. Spice level is a 0. The characters do have sex in the book, but it's closed door. You don't like, you know, experience anything with the characters. Everything is just kind of, this happened and it was great. So it's considered closed door. And, you know, there are a couple different times where it's referenced, but again, nothing explicit. And the language in this one is actually very clean as well. Like, we have a little bit of the Lord's name in vain, if that's not your thing. But overall, the expletives and the explicit language is actually a 0. I don't know if there were any F-bombs in this book. I don't know off the top of my head if there was anything really extravagant in terms of explicit language. So, you know I talk about that a lot in my reviews, because that's something that, you know, depending on who you are, that could be a turnoff or a no-go for you on books. And this one was pretty mild. And I have read some, like Fourth Wing is an example, that are not so mild. So, do with that what you will. I think that is all for this one. Let's see here, I'm trying. We got a big snowstorm yesterday, and so like the main roads are pretty fine, but like the parking lots and stuff and driveways are like covered in snow and slush and all the things. But I think that's all for this one. Let me know in the comments if you have gotten the chance to read this one by Frieda yet. Check your local library. I got it off the like quick picks, just the trending bookshelf, like right inside the door, because if I was gonna wait for it on hold, I would have had to I was like 200 and some in line. So yeah, check your quick picks if your library has that option. And like I always say, make sure you get your library card and support your libraries. Your tax dollars pay for them, and it's a great way to get lots of books for free, and it's fun. Some libraries will tell you like how much money you saved throughout the year on books, which is kind of a fun feature. But yeah, so I think that's my little spiel about the library. But that is also my review of Frieda McFadden's The Boyfriend. So thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you've read it, what you thought about it, and which Frieda McFadden book should I read next. Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Be safe and warm out there, everybody.